from getting hooked in to, believing in the politics and the Trump and all the stuff going on. And, it's just frustrating that we, at least for me, I find myself hooked into it so much.
I don't pay attention to it at all. I don't watch the news or, even where I work, I'm around it all the time, but I'm just, it's not in my field of attention at all. There's nothing. I don't, I'm not involved in any of the news or, occasionally if something really happens, then I'll hear about it from somebody speaking about it but there's really nothing. Or a Facebook feed, something will pop up and I'll be like, oh, that kind of a thing happened, and I'll go and look it up. But it's just not, it just doesn't hold my interest.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to be interested in it, but I find myself, pulled in and believing it's real, at least some of the time.
I guess then for me, I can say that I used to, when I was on the metro and I was riding into the work, this was years ago, I used to read the newspaper every single morning going into work. And then when all this kind of stuff started going on in my life, that just went away. Oh, there's Andrew. Hello, hello.
Hi, how y'all doing?
Good. But I don't pay attention to the news. There's not, and somebody could say, oh, well, that's not very responsible, but I inwardly know that, why? Why sit there because the news is basically projecting all of their fear and everything into the future, and then trying to get me to believe in the false that's not true. And of course, then that's a mind flow, because that's just a natural thing of I'm identifying with, oh, this could happen or that could happen. Check your 401k or check this or this is happening and all this kind of stuff. And then I get involved in it and my attention goes away from myself. But see, through mantra, it's not like Maharaj. I just listened to this very, very nice video of Maharaj, and he said, if a parent takes a child and says, don't go near that tree, there's a ghost in that tree, the child immediately, it's impressed. Oh, ghost in the tree. Yeah, don't go anywhere near that tree. And father, he says this maybe because he doesn't want the child climbing in the tree or whatever, so he says there's a ghost in that tree. So the child immediately, that's impressed. He accepts this. Oh, there's a ghost in the tree. Even to the point where he might make himself believe that, how when they do at Christmas time and Santa is being watched and all this, as a little kid, you might look up and say, oh, Daddy, look, there's Santa on his sleigh. I see him. Because the concept is so impressed and you're seeing what you believe to be your world. And if you tell a child that, hey, there's a ghost in that tree, it impresses. Even years later, he might say, whoo, might be a ghost in the tree. He may even pass that belief down to his son. Hey, son, in this row of trees, don't go near because there's ghosts in the trees when you go to Grandpa's house. Because that's how silly concepts are. And to sit there and worry about Trump and the world and the wars and any kind of, why? That's just pretending and giving even more identity and even more into it. When you know yourself in a real sense as the formlessness, then all of this stuff appearing in form is nothing. I just posted today about Siddhar Meshwar Maharaj says something very beautiful. Go in your dream from last night and take something. Even tonight when you're sleeping, bring something of value from your dream and have it there in the next morning. The whole world is a projection on your spontaneous presence is absolutely illusion. So if you enjoy being tortured, and you do enjoy it or you wouldn't do it, because just like if I say, oh, you know, I don't like the effects of prune juice. When I drink a lot of prune juice, I'm in the bathroom for hours, but I can't stop drinking prune juice. That's a silliness. I'm wedded to concepts. I like the news. I like the worldly events. I like feeling like, oh, and then I get to talk about it with all my friends who are also in this illusory world saying, oh my God, what if this happens? What if that happens? Oh no, this is that. It fills the hours of my day. It's my entertainment while I'm in body form. But if it's believed in, it causes a thought train. I will never get to know myself because every single moment I'm going further and further and further away from my selfless self. With concepts after concepts after concepts. And if you ask, for me, there's no world. I mean, this idea that there's a world that continues out there and all of this kind of stuff, it's not true. And you'll see this with mantra. You know, I heard somebody ask a question of Maharaj about, you know, should I do this mantra that you gave me or should I do my own thing? It's like, you have to understand, Maharaj is your selfless self. That is God in form telling you, the selfless self, perform this mantra, do this meditation. Disregard the world. The world is illusion. It's a projection on your spontaneous presence. Be normal, be simple, be humble. All these things that Maharaj is saying, they're orders. You know, consider it like you're in the military, and he says, do this. Yes, sir. Do this. Yes, sir. Because that's how Nisargadatta responded. You heard exactly. Nisargadatta even wrote about the fact that when his guru says, you're Brahmin, that's it. For him, he's like, okay, I'm Brahmin. And I have to meditate on the fact that I'm Brahmin. I have to discover this for my own self. I've been told. I believe it. Absolutely. Like Maharaj says, your parents say you're a man or you're a woman. And you go through your daily activities. You never once sit there and say, well, maybe I'm a woman. Maybe man is woman and woman is man. These are labels. So who knows? But I've been told this, it's been impressed upon me, and I act on the beliefs and the concepts that I'm holding in the moment. And the more concepts I hold, the further away I am from myself, and the more activity and attention is spent watching mind and believing what it's presenting. Every thought that was presented to the mind that I believe I am will be acted on. Oh no, oh, terror, terror, fear. There's no fear. There's no world to fear. The highest thing that you can fear is death, and you can't die. You were never born. You will know this through mantra. You will know that this formlessness is your own self. You're the knower of that, and that's formless. There's nothing. How can that die? If I take a knife and I stab space, I cannot. If I chop, I cannot. If I try to, even a nuclear war, boom, doesn't hurt the sky. So if you know that you are never born and you cannot die, then all fear ends right there, because everything is just lower levels of that fear of death. Maharaj states this all the time. Your tension, you have fear and all this, the biggest fear is fear of death. And that's the most huge concept. I need to survive, but there is no survival. Somebody posted today, I saw on Facebook, where they said something about life. And they said, what about the afterlife? Well, but life doesn't have an after and before. Life is life. Life is. The only thing that dies, so to speak, is the concept of life. But life itself is continuous. The cycle of life. So there is no afterlife because there is no before life. Life is just life. There's no life in life. It just is.
Life continues in a different form after the body dies.
Well, again, see, and that's a concept of a body, and the truth is you are not body, you were not body, and you're not going to remain a body. But the truth, the highest truth is you never were a body. The body was a momentary, like Maharaj says, the click, the fire, and the match. there's an assumption and beliefs and concepts that this unlimited is now limited in form, but it was not and is not, and that's not true. And it never was true. It was just a belief that needs to be discarded. And using mantra, you can discard this belief. Even the idea that I ever was a body is not true. I am this formlessness that's providing this space for this body to appear, and then the knowledge is believing that this body is myself for a time. Until I meet myself in another form who tells me, no, 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 you never were this body. Say this mantra, and it's finished. This is the master key, the key to get out of this illusion and go back to your formless state, yet still be able to use form until the time that this form expires. And again, the conglomeration of the 5 elements, that goes back to the 5 elements. But that attached itself in belief, in concept, to this conglomerate of the 5 elements, when the 5 elements disappear, that attached is now just detached.
You know, what keeps coming up for me is when Papaji was visiting Ramana, and he talked about there was a terrible war going on in India between the Pakistanis, you know, I mean the separation of India from Pakistan, and there was a fight between the Hindus and the Muslims. And Papaji's family was on a train, and the Muslims were, and they were Hindus, and the train, they were going to get slaughtered. And Ramana said, go and save your family. So it was like, and Papaji said, well, but I don't care. That's all an illusion. And Ramana said, well, it's illusion, so what? Go and save them anyway.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it's a story in the Ramana, lineage, whatever, that Papaji then went and actually was one of the few people to get his family off the train before the Muslims came and slaughtered everybody on the train. There was actually a scene in the movie Jewel in the Crown where that happened. That actually did happen with the difference between the two, sects, and that sort of thing happened. But I just remember that statement that Ramana made: just go out and so what if it's a dream? Go and save your family. He said something to that effect. Mm-hmm. And Papaji was able to do it because he went there, he got there in time, and it was kind of a miraculous thing that he was able to get his family off. But anyway, but that always struck me as being, okay, you're in the world, but you're not of the world. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean you're not in the world. I just struggle with that whole thing, because, I guess it still works in the sense that what's in front of you is what you deal with. It's like you deal with your job, you deal with, so you do what you can, whether it's a dream or not.
Yeah, without any expectations, beliefs, or desires, nothing wrong with that. Again, what is right in front of you, you do to the best of your ability. Now, do understand, too, that Ramana Maharshi is that speaking, and in that moment, that is the correct.
Yeah.
It might be you went and he said, no, forget about your family, let them drown. You understand? It's whatever is in the moment. It's the universal self speaking to the universal self in that form based on that moment.
Yeah.
That's why so much of the books and all this kind of stuff, they're for that moment. I think Nisargadatta Maharaj says somebody's going to be taping this and listening to it, but it's not going to be the same. It's not. It's direction in the spontaneity in the moment. Now, yes, you can read it and understand there's going to be a recognition, mostly that you've spoken these words before. But there's each individual sense like this. Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta, and I think Ramakat Maharaj says, Nisargadatta says like this, Ramana Maharshi says like this, Osho says like this, these guys say like this, but that's the one selfless self speaking in that exact moment to itself, knowing what it needs in that moment.
Yeah, I guess we try to universalize what they're saying to apply to other situations, because you don't know what the exact situation was at the time.
Well, how it's flowing. How it's flowing. That's whatever is in the moment. See, there's just a speaking and a listening, and there's no holding it. Like you would say, okay, one person, there's no division like that, where one person gets this information, one person gets that information, and there's actually someone who's doling out this information. They're just speaking and listening, and how it's perceived in each one of these different situations. And that's why the conveyance is accept your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no Master. Because all of this is just pointing to that. And getting bogged down in the concepts of, you know, how the Das Bodh says this, or how this book says this, or Amrut Leia, and then let's divide and let's try to figure this out and let's add this stuff. It's useless, completely useless. It would throw away all the books, put a nice big fire for all of them. You would be better off just spending time with the mantra and your selfless self. And the books are good, but to a point, and can cause a lot of confusion because all of them are contradictory because they're each spoken at a different point. Everything is like that. Nothing is going to be, I think we talked about before about, you know, God said to hit the rock and you get water, and then hit the sand. And he said, no, I'm not going to hit the sand. I'm going to hit the rock. Because we want things to be all the same all the time. We want to have some kind of a semblance of continuity, that it's going to be this way. It's going to be the same. Because Ramana Maharshi said, go save your family, that means family is, it's very important, and this and that. And family, like Maharaj says, he's not saying neglect your family life. Do your job, do your duties. But don't be so attached to these things as if you were dumped in this body in this moment and they said, action, and you go and you do your thing. And then it's finished.
Yeah, it's like playing your part and knowing it's not true, basically.
Exactly.
You play a role.
Exactly. Go and save your family, and maybe the Muslims hacked your family to pieces and threw them all over the train, and you go there and you see that, and it's a horrible thing, but you recognize immediately that this looks horrible, but no one actually died. I remain with my selfless self. I know this is illusion. Whether my family's hacked to pieces and thrown all over the road, or whether I get to go and save them and we have supper the next night, inwardly, the attachment, of course, there's love and there's affection, but there's not a devastation of, oh my God, look at this terrible thing that's happened. Yes, you probably are going to feel pain, go through whatever you go through, but just like Nisargadatta Maharaj was talking with one devotee one time, and he mentioned, oh, by the way, my wife died. And it's not that he's cold and unfeeling, it's that the reality is a form is no more, that self was using and believing, it's gone, it's finished, and that's all that's happened.
And it doesn't mean that there isn't a lot of pain and sorrow, you know, because there is this attachment. It's natural that there would be an attachment if your wife dies. So you just be with the feelings that come up without creating a drama out of it, I guess, because...
Well, he made it very nonchalant. And I heard about another Swami who, I don't know if it was Siddhameshwar Maharaj, but somebody who actually went on stage and talked for a 2-hour spiritual lecture after having found out his wife had died. See, because it's the drama of, oh my God, this is so terrible, I have to stop the world because of this. Yes, there's pain. Yes, you feel. But it's not this, you don't take the bite. Because there isn't a you there that's creating this whole story of things happening.
Oh, right. It comes back to taking a position in the as a somebody.
Exactly. You're totally unconcerned. Yes. Okay. Wife has died, and this is a tragic thing. And I can mourn and I can cry, but there's not that. It's just, again, like you're playing a role. Yes, you're having the feelings, but you're not attached to these feelings. And this mind is not creating this story that's going deeper and deeper and deeper into identity. And if it is, then you have the master key of mantra to dig yourself out of this illusory state.
Yeah. I don't know. I've always had this idea that, you know, we're supposed to be here to be both fully human and fully divine. But I don't know. Maybe that is what it is. I don't know if that's
Spontaneously.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's if you have the story of being a human that's being divine, that's fine. Like Maharaj says, when it's time to leave the body, are you fearless? Are you tension free?
Yeah.
You absolutely 100%, you know, you're at peace. You have happiness. Then okay. If this knowledge will help you at time of leaving the body, and you know, oh, I was a human and I was here to live divinity and all this, it's fine. Okay, then that's how you like.
Yeah.
The idea is that you have no ideas. The idea that is at the time of death, you won't know. there's no like, yeah. Mm.
Yeah. I think there's something to the idea of like unfinished desires or things like that, that you,
The concept
that's a concept.
believed in.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like we just said, with the little boy who knows there's a ghost in the tree and actually starts to see the ghost.
Yeah.
Or the kids who watch Santa Claus in the sky as he's traveling all around the world on Christmas Eve, and literally they say, "Oh, look, Daddy, I see Santa in the sky." Yeah, because it's concept and believed in with attention, your creation. So if you want to create this idea of unfulfilled desires or whatever, then I suppose yes, but it's not reality.
No, it's just a teaching that I heard from a spiritual teacher. He says, "Oh, well, the idea, of course, is to go completely, you know, the idea of a hot knife going through butter. Your life should be, okay, it's just, it's everything is just like the glass of water you pick up. Okay, you pick it up and then you do it and it's dropped. That's the same way with life, that, you know,
Yes.
you were here, you did whatever you did, and then it's over."
Yes.
It's just, but we have this tendency to, I mean, I'm just talking about myself. I don't know about other people, but just this idea that, oh, I never got to visit, you know, the pyramids of Egypt or something like that. I don't want to be thinking that on my deathbed.
Yeah, and mantra erases these concepts. That's the thing, because there won't be a deed or a doer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you absolutely know that there's no way you could have ever done anything, then you're free of this.
Yeah, I guess I
It-
don't.
It really comes down to mantra.
Yeah, hasn't sunk in yet completely, because there's things that, you know, they talk about the bucket list, you know, and you're like, well, how much longer do you have to live? You know, what do you have to get done before you?
But
I know.
yeah, again, these are, I mean, all of this just sounds like there's not enough mantra.
Yeah.
Remaining with your selfless self, or just like Trish said in the beginning, going off into watching the politics and the world and how terrible everything is, and that's okay. I mean, if that's okay. It's not real. The
Yeah.
politics is not real. The world is not real. The bucket list is not real. You are not real. All your family is not real. Nothing is there except your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no Master. Nothing, nothing, nothing.
No.
This something that we're all speaking about arose from nothing and will dissolve back into nothing. It's only entertainment while you're in body form. If you care to entertain yourself in however which way you wish to do it, that's okay. Now, Siddharameshwar Maharaj goes one step further and says, you are in a human body right now. You've attached yourself to a human body in this moment, and you believe that, okay, well, after death, maybe I'll get another human body and another chance and all this kind of, no. Because he talks about the 8.4 million species that you had to go through to get this human form. So that provides a little more urgency, because your next unfulfilled desire could be unfulfilled in the state of a cockroach. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, and that again, that's a concept. Just all of this is to impress the reality on to you. Just like the father that said, there's a ghost in the tree, your own self has said, this mantra will allow you to see that all of this unreality, all these illusory layers that you've been living in are untrue. And you can live quite nicely without these illusory layers that have been added on. Now, if you care to play in the illusory layers, you can certainly do that. But Maharaj has already said, everything is appearing on your spontaneous presence. That spontaneous presence is formless, invisible, unidentified identity. That you are. Anonymous, what is it? Invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity. That you are. That something that is appearing in the nothing will go back to nothing. So all we're doing, all this speaking, is just speaking about the nothing. But it's speaking about that something that looks like it's there, that has appeared on the nothing. Just like again in the dream. If we're all dreaming right now, sleeping, and we're having this wonderful talk in the dream about the dream world, and then we wake up tomorrow and totally that's what how? What do you take out of the dream? You can't take anything out of the dream. When this form is no more believed in, if you're living, you can live as the knowledge of, I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body, I'm totally unconcerned with the world. Or you can live with the idea that, oh my God, this world's very scary, it's dog eat dog out there, and Republicans and Democrats, and nobody has my best interest at heart, and what am I going to do when I retire, and what is happening here? You can live like that too. It's not real, though. Oh, from Keith. Let's see. I'm going to pop it up here in the chat. Oh, shoot. It didn't pop up in the big chat. It's little teeny weeny writing. Hold on. It very... I get my glasses.
I can read
Yeah, if you want to read it, that's cool. Because I had it up on the chat on the side, but okay, go ahead. Yes, please.
Okay, Keith says, it every so often occurs that I get an insight from reading, which seems to have something to do with opening me to open presence. It is usually something that is connected to seeing the whole big picture for a flash, and it seems to have an effect. And if I go back and try to use that reading to bring me back to openness, after I have slipped back to concepts, it doesn't work a second time. The manner in which concepts draw me away from openness is that they convince me of what is being.
Yeah, again, that's like Maharaj talks about the reader's story. It's the recognition and the projection. When you're reading these, it opens. You'll feel this, definitely. That's why a lot of the Facebook posts you put out, it's like, boom. And the funny thing is, it's not to comment. Like, people will put a long, long comment about it. But it's not to do that. It's that hit. I think Nisargadatta Maharaj calls it the hammering.
Yeah.
And Ramakant Maharaj says the mantra is hammering, it's hammering, it's hammering all the time. And when you read these books, you read a part of it, and there is an openness. And yes, you feel that. But then that's because that's spontaneously. There's a recognition in the projection and an openness in the moment. But then when you start to have the ideas form about what you've read, that's why Nisargadatta Maharaj says, if you believe you've understood, you have not. because the understanding is the recognition. But to sit there and understand and have the mind, ego, intellect to get involved in trying to interpret, right away you're using these things that have appeared on spontaneous presence, mind, ego, intellect, that appeared along with the body, that are transient and that aren't you. So you're using the false, like we talked about before. The mind can only present ideas to you in form, through what it's seen, memories, impressions, in form. When you're reading, there's a recognition in the projection, just as when you're doing mantra. You know, in the beginning states of like, oh, okay, you know, many people will say, I'm remaining with the I am, and this is good. You're out in the world, something happens, and rather than pay attention to it, you go into that feeling. You're still in duality. You are going into the feeling, but this is good because, okay, you're feeling, okay. That grows because your attention is being paid to that. And that is how, when Ramakant Maharaj says inviting the attention of the invisible listener, the presence then starts to investigate this. That's the other way, so to speak. Because it's you as a belief in your own self as an individual that's investigating this feeling of presence, this I am, this I exist. And then that I am opens and sort of is looking at this that's been added on to it that it does not need. And the selfless self, the attention is invited of the invisible listener, that this form and the ideas and the beliefs, and as it's talked about, the subtle body and the causal body, and the I forget, I think that is subtle body, that's the mind, ego, intellect. Yeah. But all of these are added on and are about this character that's appearing on my spontaneous presence. And the attention is invited of the invisible listener that I'm not this. And that I can't be this. It doesn't even make sense. And then, in using this body instrument to know myself in a real sense, I continuously discriminate between the real and the false. Oh, this is something in form, and I know I'm formless. I know that sense of presence, and I know myself in a real sense. This is a form thing. It's not me. It's discarded. Yet I actively do in this moment. But I do in this moment without the expectation and also without any fear that anything is going to happen to me. Because most of the things that happen to you are through mind. Yeah. They don't actually happen. Just like you're talking about politics. If they were to say right now, okay, Trump, and I don't know if he's still bothering North Korea and all these guys or whatever, but, you know, there's a war. We're sending troops over there. And maybe we actually are. I don't know. I don't listen to the news, so I'm not concerned with that. But let's say they're sending troops over there, and then there's a whole skirmish. And everybody's like, you know, if this happens, then they might use biological. Just like when they did the whole Iran or Iraq thing. And we thought, oh, my God, there's chemical weapons, and our troops will get chemical weapons and all that. The news was buzzing with the idea that Saddam Hussein was going to put this horrible chemical weapons and just wipe out our guys, and we would have this plague, basically, on Earth. And the news talked about that every single solitary day until, finally, we won in like 4 days or whatever, and it was all done. But that concept can keep going and going and going and growing, and fear and all this kind of stuff. And it all goes back to the basic fear of death, which is not.
Yeah. No, it's a good point that Keith is making. I've had that same experience of reading something and having like a flash of insight and then going back to it there, because it doesn't happen. It's like lightning striking twice in the same place. So,
because that's the real presence that's there, and I know the Sagrada says do not, like when you just listen and that's it. Don't go back and pick at that or try to analyze it or whatever. Basically, just let the words fall and do their job, period.
Exactly.
Don't get the mind involved. The mind wants to make a concept out of all this stuff.
Well, and you have the desire to acquire. If you're going back to read it again, it's like, ooh, that was really good, and you want to acquire this.
Right.
Then there's an I am somebody else that's acquiring something, and that's huge concept lost.
I was thinking, it's almost the same thing as what's happening here. We're having this dialogue, this conversation, and I always wondered sometimes, it's like, oh, this is really good. And then when I come and listen to the recording, it's the same thing. It's like in the moment, there's a flash of recognition and there's an energy going back and there's a presence. And then sometimes if I just, say, oh, that was really good, let me go listen. It doesn't always have the same effect. So I think it's the same thing.
True. Because reality, the stamp of reality is you are here right now.
Yeah.
I think Nisargadatta Maharaj has said that, like, the thing that makes this moment real is the sense you are. The presence is here right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be here in a more amplified way when there's an interaction, when there's a presence of, going back and forth, there's the invisible listener gets triggered. Whereas if you're just listening to a recording, sometimes it's different. So that's an interesting point to keep.
Indeed.
Sometimes, when I listen to the recording, I just kind of like, I usually, I may be doing yoga in my room or something like that and just listen to it. And I don't, sometimes it's like, I don't try to analyze it. I just listen and basically let it fall where it falls. And I find it helpful for myself, actually, sometimes. I mean, if I try to, study it or something like that, it's, then you, of course, you can get more mental about it. But I think it can be listened to again in the same frame, just basically freshly without bringing anything to it. And just, because sometimes I'll listen to, Ramakant's recordings over and over and, basically it's the same thing, it's hear it in a whole new way a second time, kind of freshly. I listened to him today, actually, on Mixler, and he talked about, he said when a mother wants to cook a meal and she's got kids, she gives them a doll to play with so they don't bug her.
Yeah, I heard
so
that
she can do her job, and he said the mantra's like that. It's like the master gives you a doll or something to play with, so you don't mess with it. So you don't mess with what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's good.
Well, and that's too, like the tip of the nose and all the instruction and all of that kind of stuff. It's because the mind is very, very busy, like he said. So you give it something to kind of do while this is being impressed and engraved in the invisible listener.
Hi, everybody. This is Jim.
Hey, Jim.
Hi, Jim.
Hi.
I've been listening to this conversation and enjoying Kathleen's comments and John's insight. And by the way, I was actually the person that wrote the email or asked the question about mantra. And my question was essentially prompted by my experience, which has been that when I repeat the mantra in meditation, my mind just goes elsewhere. It doesn't really do much. And that what I found was if I would focus on aliveness, on meditating just on awareness, that seemed to be more direct somehow. And I'm wondering if I've never met Ramakant in person, and he gave me the mantra by Skype. I'm wondering if possibly because I didn't meet him in person, if the mantra somehow lacks the Chaitanya, the consciousness quality that it would otherwise have. I know, that's a hard question to answer, but
No, I mean, it's that all of that is concept. Number one, I don't think he gave you the lineage mantra via Skype because I don't think he does that. So it might not be the lineage mantra. I don't know. Maybe it is.
yeah,
But I know that usually he reserves that for when you're with him because it's like you're taking initiation into the lineage. As far as again, for my own self, I just took it as gospel. Like when I was given the mantra, it was like, okay, you do this mantra. Anything else that you've done to this point, and I did. I had the Mahavekkyas, and I read the
you were prepared.
the Abhangas and all this kind of stuff.
I mean, you had decided before that you were going to give your all.
Exactly, but you have to do that. It's not a part-time thing. It's like whatever I've learned before. And see, I was lucky. I didn't have like 20 years of spiritual knowledge or seeking or anything. This all happened very, very rapidly. I had like a couple of years of even thinking or even interested in spirituality, and then all this came about. So I didn't have all that thing that my ego had to hold on to and say, oh my God, I really need to keep doing it this way, or what about that way? Like he talked about in Ramakant Maharaj USA, the lady who said she liked Vipassana meditation or whatever. He said, well, that's good, but it's an egoistic meditation. You are the meditator meditating in this Vipassana or whatever. I don't know exact words, but something like this. And he said, you can do it. It's egoistic meditation, and it's absolutely no benefit to you whatsoever. You will never, ever, ever get that conviction because there's always going to be a duality in your meditation. Yeah. And see, knowing this, it's like mantra. That's it. Oh, I'm having trouble with mantra? More mantra. I don't, thoughts are going in mantra? Okay, thoughts are going. Maharaj has already said thoughts come and go. Mantra. And just for my own self, it was, he put his hand on my head and said the mantra in my ear, and it was as if God Almighty himself came down and said, boom, wow. It's finished for you.
Yeah.
And I just used the mantra. And I got to have the experiences in the ashram of all the craziness and concentrating on mantra rather than the craziness.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to be, mantra. That's the only thing. I know Maharaj doesn't get frustrated a lot. I mean, you can hear sometimes a little frustration in his voice when he talks about like the questions that he's getting. Yeah. They need because everybody goes off and talks about like blue people that they're seeing or how is this happening or this, and he just points you back to remain with your selfless self, being with your selfless self, spend some time for you. Mantra has been given. Now, again, I don't know if Maharaj, whatever. When he did the mantra in the Ramakant Maharaj USA, folks, he has the picture of Nisargadatta Maharaj there. He gives the mantra, and he initiates you into the lineage. When I went to India, he sits you in a chair in front of all of the pictures of the gurus of our lineage. He walked around in a circle, whispered the mantra, put his hand on my head, and then it was like a flow. It was that's done. And like we said earlier, Nisargadatta Maharaj had the same thing happen, and he just said, my guru says I'm Brahmin. Now it's my responsibility to realize this.
Yes.
Jim, you said that he gave you a mantra.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So that's, yeah.
I know one thing I read. He told a story about the mantra. It depends on how one values it. Like he used the example of a stone, and this guy brought the stone to a little village, and they said they give him 200 rupees for it, and he ended up in a huge jewelry shop, I think in a large city, and they offered him like crores, or, thousands and thousands of rupees for that stone. And it just depends on how each person values it, and how much it's actually used.
Well, you guys have been doing this for quite a while now, so I guess these aren't relevant questions, because you're still obviously doing it. I'm kind of plodding my way through it, I guess. Maybe I need to.
But see, leave, and Maharaj always says, leave mind to ego intellect alone. That's why he says about the people who had no education, Nisargadatta, Siddhameshwara Maharaj, had no education. They were illiterate, basically, for their time. But it was impressed. There's no thinking about. It's just mantra, mantra, mantra. And asking questions is no big... I mean, like Maharaj says, he always says, any questions, any questions. You should not ever go away with any doubt.
Right.
Because doubt is just going to be the birth of more concepts and more belief that's going to take you further and further and further away from yourself. Because one of the beliefs you're having now is that the mantra might not be what I need. I might know that if I hold that sense of presence and I just keep holding that sense of presence, that's more nice than this mantra. But the mantra allows you to be one with your selfless self, and then all of life is occurring inside that mantra that you are one with. And it's keeping the mind busy while you observe your body doing all these various things. And it's not just, like I said, for my own self, I didn't just sit for meditation for 2 hours. As a matter of fact, the first day, right after being given mantra, I sat with a bunch of people and we did the meditation for a couple, like probably, I guess, an hour or so. And then I just went back to the room and just kept doing it. And then the experiences were happening inside the mantra. Wow. And that's how it can be if you want that. And even the mantra, Aham Brahmasmi, as he says in the book, you can use this. These are just the words. It's the belief in the words, the power in the words. Before I went to India, I said before, I was using like Yo Sao Soham, Hum Saha Soham Asmi. And every moment I was mantra, this Yo Sao Soham Asmi, just all the time. And I don't know how or why that happened, but there was a strong belief that this mantra, because I hadn't seen Maharaj yet, but I was so dedicated, I want this, that I felt even that mantra, because it was on the internet, and I had seen it in the Mahavakyas, that somehow that selfless self had presented that to me. You know what I'm saying? Yes, that's very mental, but it was the devotion and the desire to have this, and then eventually led to Maharaj. But even that mantra that I found, and like Maharaj says, it's not just the words, it's the belief in those. It's the belief that, yes, this is finished. And that's why our mantra in the lineage is so wonderful, because you can say, it goes back to Balseb Maharaj, and then Siddhameshwara Maharaj, Nisargadatta Maharaj, and now you. So the mantra works. It's created some of the greatest saints the world has ever known. So if you're wondering, like, is this a good mantra or not? This is the mantra of the most sparkling lineage of spirituality on the planet. And now it's been given to you, the master key. That's why Maharaj says too, yes, I can do it. Yes. And yes, that's an egoistic, dualistic thing, but like he says, these are just for conversation. Yes, I can do it. I will dedicate this time to mantra. If Nisargadatta Maharaj can do this with the same mantra, and Siddhar Rameshwar Maharaj can do this with the mantra, I can do it. I will invite the intention of the invisible listener, and I will realize my selfless self. I will live happily, tension-free, peacefully, and have no fear, fearlessly. And I'll do that in this next moment, because I know that mantra is already working. I know that when I go out in the world tomorrow, that mantra is working. I am one with my selfless self. This is the reality. What I'm perceiving out here is appearing on my spontaneous presence and is disregarded immediately. The reality is, I am that selfless self. I am Brahman. I am Atman. I am Paramatman. I am God. I am Master. And everything else is just illusion appearing on that spontaneous presence. And I remain with my selfless self. I remain with the mantra. That conviction is there.
Oh, it says, for me, what Keith says, for me, whenever I just do the mantra, I don't just automatically feel the open oneness or whatever I call it, but it seems to possibly be connected with the openness that just opens at random moments from my sense of being here for however long until I buy into what thought as being is.
Yes, and before buying into thought, if you were to use mantra, that's also, because there's still an I am somebody else that's being created. You're losing attention on your selfless self. You're going attention in the outwards way, but mantra can pull that in more. And the more that is pulled in, the more that's pulled in, the more you begin to see. You know, the more you'll go through experiences without an experiencer being created, and then you'll look on the other side and be like, that's wow. You know, I went through that. I was using mantra the whole time. Yes, it's still dualistic because there's someone doing mantra, but yet that someone doing mantra didn't experience that experience. Instead, it was just mantra through the experience until, again, the experiencer is completely dissolved. The person that's doing it is completely dissolved because these are all illusory concepts. And the mantra is erasing illusory concepts. And yes, for a time, it can be very bothersome. I talked about going into the jewelry store and then freaking out about the food and all that kind of stuff. But still, even then, it was complete faith and trust in the Master. Master has said, repeat this mantra, remain with your selfless self. It's an illusory world. Don't get the attention loosely out there, you know, like a carriage or whatever, and the horses are just going here and there. Don't let yourself be like drawn, quartered with your attention. Keep to your selfless self. Remain with yourself. Remain with the mantra. That's all of this is just appearing on your spontaneous presence. It comes and it goes, and you see this. I'm using mantra, and these scenes are coming and going, and I'm not attached to them. I'm not going out and grabbing and putting tentacles in them, and then these scenes are kind of dragging me along, and then new scenes come in, and I'm drug along with those scenes, and I think, oh my God, life is terrible. No, they're coming and going and passing, and I remain with my selfless self. And this is the reality when you're not covering yourself with illusory layers of thinking and all these kind of things. Says, I find it very hard to continue the mantra.
while doing what I am doing or experiencing what I am doing. I can't really do two things, although sometimes it seems the mantra runs in the background.
Yeah, it should. It could always. As you're breathing in and breathing out, mantra, mantra, on the times that you're actually paying attention to it, when you're not paying attention to it, it continues. And it's spontaneous. And the way you know this, I think we talked about this before, it goes to the background until an I am somebody else is being created, and then the mantra comes to the foreground. Okay, then that passes and it goes back to the background. But it's ready, on demand, on spontaneous. Rather than an I am somebody else being on demand, mantra is on demand to come forward and erase this concept of I am somebody else before it gets started. And everything I'm speaking about, this is the experience. Like, I know this. Like Maharaj has said it, and we can all say, wow, that's really amazing, and this can happen, and this and that. But I followed the instructions given by the master. I wanted it more than life itself. I followed the instructions given by the master, and when an I am somebody else came, mantra. And the more personal the experiences got, the more tension the experiences got, the more mantra, and going through these without an experience, without an experiencer. You know, and I know it's not me that did this. It's not John was like, because how? You know, when I was in the hospital in India with food poisoning, I was really in no state to sit there and say, yes, I'm going to have courage. No, it wasn't even that. It was just Master said mantra. This is mantra, mantra, mantra. It was afterwards that I saw the opportunity that was there, having used mantra, and what it could have been without mantra. All the fear, all the thoughts and all that. So tomorrow you will have, I'm guaranteeing, unless you just sit and watch paint dry, you will have opportunities in your day tomorrow to remain with your selfless self. When attention goes out, mantra. Attention goes out, mantra. As for doing things, you know, you can be doing anything in mantra, mantra, mantra. And it's not just like Maharaj says, this mental thing of mantra. It can be that sometimes, but mostly it's that paying attention, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. Get on the elevator, push the button, door closes, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. In traffic, breathing in, breathing out. Mantra, mantra, mantra. Oh, I'm about to get irritated. No, no, no. Mantra. Until that spontaneous conviction comes that I am not body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain the body, the entire world is illusory and I'm completely unconcerned with it. And as that becomes your living reality, then again, the heat gets turned up. Mantra, 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 mantra. Until then, there's no more heat to turn up because there's nobody, there's just fire, but nobody there being cooked. Nothing left.
A lobster disintegrated in the pot.
Exactly. Exactly. This is the reality. And you can do it. You can do it. Our lineage, oh my God, if you even think intellectually, this lineage is so amazing. Yes, Ramana Maharshi, another very strong and powerful lineage. But Inchagiri Navnath Sampradaya is like very strong, powerful lineage. And this mantra goes back to Dattatreya. You know, it's not like it's been changed or, you know, like they say, okay, mantra 2.0 or, you know, the newly released mantra or whatever. It's the exact same mantra that each one of these powerful saints went, received, believed, used, had the courage, and then invited the attention of the invisible listener that began speaking automatically.
Uh, I read somewhere recently that even breathing is a tiny bit of effort.
I mean, you have to put in some effort. Like it's an effortless effort because it disappears the effort after a while because there won't be anyone creating the effort. But in the beginning, and especially because you had mentioned that you were having a little bit tough time doing mantra while you're doing other things, you can associate the mantra with the breathing and remaining with yourself, the self, with the breathing while the activities are occurring. And you do whatever's right in front of you, but you're concentrated inward. All the attention is inward, and the world is projected from that inward place. That's why there's no concern with it, because it's being projected from inwardly. It's not an outward thing that you're then experiencing. All of this is coming from your spontaneous presence, and this is known. You know yourself in a real sense. You know, Keith talked about that formless kind of sense, that beautiful I am feeling. And then all of these forms are appearing in and on and through. And so it's form, and you know yourself as formless, so no form should bother you at all. Just like the dream world, you go to sleep tonight, and you have a dream, and whatever's happening in your dream, you're dreaming. So when you wake up, all of it's gone. No matter how long the dream might be. You might dream that you lived 100 years in your dream tonight, and that you went to school and, parents died, and then you had to bury them, and then you moved on, and you had your own kids and all this, and you wake up and it's gone. It's done. It's finished. And as Maharaj says, this world is a long dream. I am somebody else. Every book you read, know it's your story, that you're communicating with yourself through these words that are for you. Don't think it's Siddharmeshwar Maharaj or Nisargadatta Maharaj or Ramakant Maharaj. It's your own self speaking directly to you. And it's your story. It's like if you had left a tape-recorded message for yourself warning you to not do something or to do something or whatever. This message is for you. It's hand-delivered from you, by you, to you, in the form of this book and some words. And since you're outside of time, it doesn't matter if it was 400 years ago or yesterday.
It's like here I be, but then I go and think I am thought type being. One word type being.
It's like what? Here I what?
It's like here I be, but then I go and think I am thought type being. One word type being. I don't know.
I mean, again, mantra will erase this. These are all illusory concepts. And once you know yourself in a real sense, these illusory concepts won't bother you, even if they're there. Again, we talked about, and this is the same kind of a thing, a magic show. You go for the first night and you sit and you watch the magic show, and they saw this lady in half, and the other person is in handcuffs and dunked in the tank, and they light this other person on fire, and this other person looks like they're hung. And you're like, oh, wow, that was amazing. Then you go backstage and you see how it's done. You know, the tank is like here and the person's behind it. It looks like the person's in the tank, but they're not. Okay, the next night you go back, you're not going to be shocked and amazed. The illusion has been revealed. You're no longer looking at it and saying, oh, wow, look at how the tank is done. No, because even if you try to pretend like, wow, that's really cool, You've seen the reality. The reality is going to tell you, remember, there's a guy in back of the water. It's not he's actually in the water. It looks really cool, but it's not real. This is the same. Like Maharaj says, how you were prior to being this, how you'll be after leaving the body, I don't know. And I don't know. I don't know. No knowledge is knowledge. Knowledge means just to know yourself in a real sense. You know yourself in a real sense by spending some time with your selfless self through meditation, through mantra, through inviting the attention of the invisible listener. Which is all you can do. Because just like all the spiritual practices that you may do in your dream, when you wake up, they're finished. That they had no benefit whatsoever. All the spiritual practices you're doing right now in this life that you're calling life is useless unless you know yourself in a real sense. Otherwise, all the everything is just there. Now, the bhakti and the natural devotion, that's going to come spontaneously anyway. But there's no spiritual practice that you're going to be able to say, okay, I'm banking on this. No, because the spiritual practices are in the consciousness that's going to leave you anyway. The only thing that won't leave you is to know yourself in a real sense. And to know that all of this never was. And have complete conviction. Just like Maharaj says, when your parents say, you're a boy or you're a girl, or you're a man or you're a woman, that's the conviction. Master says, you are Brahman. You are that selfless self. The entire world appears on your spontaneous presence. You are a projector of the 5 elements. There's no birth and death to you. Discover this. And see, if it wasn't the reality, you couldn't discover it. If it was like a pie-in-the-sky thing where somebody's selling you on something, then it wouldn't be just, oh yeah, this is something that I can discover. It would be like a fantasy. But it's truth that's backed up. So every doubt that the mind tries to do, and that's why I think for my own self it was crucial to be in front of Maharaj and to have that meeting in 2-body forms but formlessly. And to have been given that mantra, because the mind, it can't sit there and say, well, this is really, even for a long time, I thought I was going completely, absolutely insane. And there were many people around me who were willing to back that claim up. So, it was like, and the mind could have doubts all the time. It could show doubt because there wasn't that conviction, and that conviction came in front of Maharaj. 2 bodies, 1 form. The formless, selfless self. Speaker and listener, one and the same. Mantra, and erasing all the illusory layers that appeared to be separating. And then, what doubt can there be? How? Even most of the time after mantra spent in India, I spent with Maharaj one-on-one and could have asked him questions all the time, but it didn't arise. We just kind of did the bhajans, maybe sit for a bit at the nighttime, and then when new people came in, they sat and they spoke. But there was just a marinating in that conviction of, wow, there's no separation at all. And then there can be no doubt. There's no longer a questioner being posed that asks a question that believes that there's an answerer out there who can answer the question that's separate and apart from the one that asked the question.
Yeah, I like the part of the Das Bode where they talk about the seeker, and then they talk about the aspirant. You know, the different levels. I never knew there were different levels of that. It's very clear, you know, when he talks about the aspirant, you know, that it's sort of beyond the doubt stage. So, I think it's more the devotional, you know, still there, but the doubts are not so much.
Yeah, and again, remember, those are words and concepts to allow you to see where you are,
Yeah.
how you're relating. Are you relating to the seeker? Are you relating to the aspirant? Are you relating to the Siddha? What are these in your own experience?
Right.
And where is this? Like Maharaj says, where do I stand? You know, he gave those the symptoms or whatever that spiritual science talks about. I forget them all now, but like forgive and forget and these different things. All of these are concepts, but they're ways that you can, if you desire to measure and see, you'll know where you are.
Yeah.
And you'll say, oh, you know what? It looks like aspirant because there's still some doubt. Well, if I realize that there's still some doubt, then I need those doubts cleared. And the whole Das Bode is always saying, these folks that are sitting here had some doubts. These doubts have now been cleared. Why? Because they're conceptual doubts, and now they're erased. You have a master who says, these doubts are finished. Don't think about that anymore. And what is that? Don't think about that doubt. That's the only thing that a doubt is. It's a concept believed in that you're thinking about that's bothering you, and you're paying attention to it. And then if you have complete faith and trust in the master, he says, forget that doubt. Okay. He does it in a nice long little speech, but that's what he's saying. And Das Bode is beautiful because it does end every single chapter with, now that we've cleared that, pay special attention to the next chapter. And pay special attention to the next chapter because now we're going to talk about some more doubts that some other people have had that are totally conceptual, and we're going to erase those too. And it's just a systematic erasure of all the concepts and beliefs that are just not true. You could just say a stamp of not true. And Nisargadatta Maharaj says that. Nothing he says is true. Nothing he's doing is true. All of these things are in the illusory world, so they absolutely can't be true. The true, go ahead.
It's impossible to speak the truth. The truth can't be spoken, really.
Well, the truth is always just like all these concepts and beliefs, when that is all finished, like Maharaj says, when all experience ends, there you are. When all the conceptual beliefs end, there you are. And in the meantime, it's tiptoe through the concepts. And each concept is just told, oh, you believe this? Okay, that's not true. In a nice way. You can't just say, well, that's not true. You give a nice explanation of why that concept is not true. And the reason you know that that concept is not true is because you're knowing that all concepts are false. And from speaking from the position that's concept-less, formless, every single question that comes in is regarding a concept and a doubt that needs to be cleared, and it's absolutely known that it's a false idea that just needs to be cleared.
And sometimes you don't even know it's a concept. You can be lost in the wilderness of concepts, not knowing that that's what they are.
Exactly. And that's why you go to Sri Ramakant Maharaj, who's been through the forest, who's known, you know, or like the minefield. You could talk about a minefield. Sri Ramakant Maharaj has walked through the minefield. He knows where the mines are. He knows how to get you through the minefield unscathed. Meaning, he knows how to get you out of the illusory concepts that you've believed in so that you remain with yourself, the self, concept free.
It could be called the mind field.
Yeah, there you go. I guess. He's already gone through it because his master told him, this is what, when he had, I believe he's even said, like, in the beginning when Nisargadatta Maharaj was speaking, there were a lot of things he didn't understand, and it came later. But because you go to a realized saint, which is your own selfless self, that has gone through this process, that knows all the different twists and turns of the mind, that is all illusion, and can give examples on their own personal experience on how these concepts were at one time believed in and how they were seen through and discarded.
Yeah, and that also says that in the Das Bodh about, that's why you need the Sadguru.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's too easy to get lost in the concepts and the mental constructions and things like that. And the Sadguru
Absolutely.
is somebody who's been there who can tell you, don't go there.
Absolutely. Well, Sadguru is your own selfless self without ideas, beliefs, and concepts, speaking to you through the form of, like, Sri Ramakant Maharaj, Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. It's the one Sadguru, the one selfless self.
Yeah.
Concept free.
It seems like he always points you right back to the unmanifest, to the nirguna.
Yeah.
Whenever people ask, well, was that concept there when you were in that place, that nirguna stage or place, or like it's just. So he doesn't even bother to really seemingly to go into much detail with concepts and questions. He just keeps saying. He refers you right back to nirguna, and I know that in Selfless Self that Nisargadatta says that saguna, manifestation, is all false. Mm-hmm. And nirguna, the unmanifest, is just the only truth.
Yes. And he does that because, just like we said, there's a doubt. The doubt is false, but it's believed in. So he goes back to, prior to beingness, was this concept there? No. Bam. Okay. Then erase it. He's basically saying that all the questions you have are completely false. Throw them away. All the concepts you're carrying right now are completely false. Throw them away. And there you are.
So it depends on how much, like if you have absolute faith in what the teacher says, the master says, you don't have to go through these, because the concepts of the doubts can be endless. One can go on forever and ever and ever and ever.
Yes.
It's just, like you think you got it for a while, and then another one comes along and overturns that with a new doubt, and so forth and so forth. It's just,
and that's why mantra,
endless. Yeah.
Mantra clears this field slowly, silently, and permanently. And the beautiful thing is, it doesn't build on extra concepts. It's not like, okay, if I know this, and like people who talk about, okay, when I'm meditating, do I look at my nose and this and that, because it was said at some point, so now there's a doubt. But the doubt was, all these doubts are false. So we now need to clear this doubt because you said meditation, and now meditating on the nose. And like Maharaj says, it's in the beginning because the mind is crazy, so you give it a point to point to. Meditate on the nose. Okay, good. But that's a concept that's used, one thorn used to remove another thorn, then you throw both thorns away. You don't hold on to little thorns. It's not like I use a thorn to remove another thorn and then I keep that thorn in my pocket for later use. No, it's all gone. Erase, erase, erase. All the concepts, all the illusory layers are erased. And mantra allows you to do this without adding any additional concepts. And eventually, when the mantra is triggered, because it's constantly running, and the I am somebody else is being formed, mantra will erase that concept. And then there won't be anyone doing the mantra. The mantra will be just that's you. That's it. You're one with your selfless self. You're one with the mantra, and all of this is occurring inside of that mantra, that one that you are. But yeah, you're right. If you don't have complete faith and trust in the master, believe me, if you sit there and you look through all the books, the mind will love you. All the doubts that you can create and believe in, astronomical. And that's why they say don't go anywhere else. It's not that Maharaj is like, no, 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 I just want you to be my devotee. I don't want you going anywhere else. He could care less about that. It's because of you. You've met your own selfless self. The belief has to come that Sri Ramakant Maharaj is your selfless self speaking directly to you. That is not a person. It's not a body form that's speaking. That's selfless self speaking using the instrument of body, but is absolutely not a body and knows that with all conviction. And now is impressing this, just like your parents said, we talked about the ghost in the tree. Maharaj is impressing the reality in you. The selfless self. Go ahead.
I just was going to say, yeah, I know when Ranjit said one day, unless you have absolute faith in the master, everything is useless.
Yes.
You'll go nowhere.
Because the master is your own self, and if you have a doubt about your own self, then forget it.
John, did you have that type of faith before you met him in person?
I met him in person before I knew the person. I met the presence that he was, that I am, before I met the person that I connected with. That's the presence in the form. I met the presence first.
Got it.
And then when I went, and that's why when I wrote in that journal, I said, I'm going to meet that presence in body form and surrender to it completely. I had no doubt, Maharaj, that presence that had begun to just get stronger and stronger and stronger, I was going there to meet that presence in body form and surrender completely. Whatever he would have said, yes, because I knew it wasn't a he, it wasn't a person. I wasn't going to see a person or an idea even. I was going because I can't surrender to that presence. I could, but mind would still have doubts. Like, is this true? But flying to India and meeting the presence in form and surrendering to it in form, mind, no more doubts could come. This presence has now appeared before me in the form of Sri Ramakant Maharaj. This presence that in the slowly beginnings of this spiritual, whatever you want to call it, was the guide, and that presence guided me to itself in the form of Sri Ramakant Maharaj.
But it's really an all or nothing thing, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely, yes. For me it was, I don't know, but that's
I think it has to be. And that's one of the things I think about is I don't know if I have that level of conviction.
Well, remember, Nisargadatta Maharaj talks about that. He tells one devotee, why would I say this if it wasn't true? What do I have to gain?
I have doubt that it's true. I have no doubt that it's true. My doubt is with my ability or my hunger or my level of commitment to it. Just being honest, I know there are plenty of people that do spiritual practices all their lives. And in my opinion, it's like watching TV. It's entertaining. Very few people have that 100% level of commitment. I came in, I've spoken about this before. I came in through AA. My life completely and totally destroyed. And then there were the 12 steps that went through this spiritual process. And at the end of them, this presence was felt. And I surrendered to that presence. Wherever it wanted to take me, whatever it wanted to do,
I was there. I was with it fully until it led me to Sri Ramakant Maharaj. And I knew that whole journey was to lead me to that presence and form.
Yes.
And that was it. You know, I talked about when I went to India, I told my boss, there's a chance that I'm going to come back with my head shaved. And, you know, when I left, I had the long hair, the bead, the Rudd Raksh, all this kind of stuff, and beard. And I told my boss, you know, because I had seen on like Facebook and stuff that people would go to Muji and they had gotten their heads shaved. So I was like, I was totally prepared for it. If Master said, you're sitting in the chair, we're going to shave your head. And even if they wanted to paint something, I don't care, you understand? Because whatever that presence wants from me, I give. And then I find out that there was nothing of mine to give anyway. And the whole thing was just the selfless self experiencing itself on the journey of knowing itself. Whoops, hold on.
He says it's not all or nothing in any conceptual sense.
Yeah, I mean, you know, even at the airport, not getting on the right cab, and then I took another cab. I had so much complete faith and trust. There was just, I just knew, inwardly knew. I talked about when I first told Maharaj I'd come to India, I didn't have a passport. I didn't have anything, really. Didn't have a ticket, nothing. But it all came about because of the devotion, because of the faith, because the presence was arranging the whole thing. Even the day when I was listening to the bhajans and I walked up, it had been like a week or since I got my passport photo taken, and I just walked right up to the mailbox, opened it, pulled out the passport, because the selfless self knew it was there. All of this was just, and I read the book Selfless Self 5 times, going back and forth on the train, all the time, just reading and feeling more of the presence. And it was, I can't say all or nothing, because there was nothing other than that presence.
Yeah.
You know, I joked about with my sponsor in AA that if that presence that I was starting to feel, that was seemingly guiding my life and choosing my decisions for me, because when I went this way, I didn't feel so much that presence. So I said, okay, that's probably a wrong thing. Let me get back in line. I totally surrendered to that. Had it made me go up 10 stories and jump, it would have been totally okay. That sounds very crazy, but that was the frenzied surrender of this presence, this powerful presence it was through the fabric of everything. And it led me in form to itself, that I got to recognize as there's no separation, because that presence is now the same in 2 body forms, but it's only one. The separation is absolutely illusion.
Thank you for sharing that personal aside. I feel blessed having heard that story. Thank you.
Oh, it says the openness, when it opens, kind of replaces or eliminates the concepts. In that sense, it's kind of either or. Then I flip back into concepts. The openness is always open to going back to belief in conceptual being.
Yeah, thoughts are flowing in nature, like Maharaj says, and I can jump on any one of them. You know, you look at it like a river and there are little lily pads, and you can jump on any one and just be carried away. Remain with your selfless self. It's the truth. It's the reality. Underneath all the layers of illusion, there you are. And the layers of illusion, once you know yourself in the real sense, they won't make sense. It's like I saw some movie about, I forget what it was, but it was like the 2D world. Oh yeah, it was that movie. It was that TV show, The Orville, when they came into 2D rather than 3D. There was a significant look and difference in this. That's how it is. When you know yourself in a real sense, the form world just won't appeal to you at all. There is no need for detachment because there's nothing attracting, there's nothing attaching, and there's no position from where, we talked about this before. Here's me, and here's a computer. Here's me, here's water. Here's me, here's this. It's just space moving in space, using different various objects that are appearing in space in any given moment. And rather than have the attention keep going out, the attention's inward. So no matter what appears in front, attention is inward. So therefore, the changeless is always there observing the change.
I feel like I'm listening to a symphony. I'm not sure that I'm ever going to be a musician, but I'm going to master a musical instrument. But I'm very happy to be in the auditorium listening to the symphony.
Well, you are the master composer, using the various instruments that we call John, Andrew, Sandra, Trish, Kathleen. Yeah. You know, you're the master composer.
Yes. And that's what we're celebrating. It's quite beautiful. Thank you for sharing this.
There's something else Keith is saying here. He said, that reminds me of the Magic Eye books, where you let go of focus and see the 3D image. There is a shift that just opens. New mantra. I have my doubts sometimes, but also have had it work. Many openings.
Yes. Yeah, remain with your selfless self through mantra and continue mantra. Allow your daily activities to appear in mantra. Don't separate. Don't separate if I'm doing mantra and now I'm doing my daily activities. No. Continue with mantra. Have it running all the time. Mantra, mantra, mantra. And the daily activities are appearing in mantra. And then you're one with your selfless self. You're one with the mantra. And all these activities, all this illusory world is appearing in that mantra. And you're not separated. Your attention is inward with mantra, remaining with your selfless self. Constantly. That's why Maharaj says, you know, why 1 or 2 hours? Continuously. Selfless self-devotion. Remain with your selfless self continuously. It's the reality. Even though the outside world appears to be very, very real and is vying for your attention, it's not. And your attention is not needed in that way. Remain with your selfless self, mantra, 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 mantra mantra until the activities in the world arise in the mantra, and there's no separation because you're one with the mantra, and this world that's appearing in mantra is appearing in you.
Ramakant has stated any mantra will do. Obviously, the non-lineage mantra worked for John even before he met Ramakant.
This is true, but it was the full faith.
Yeah.
See, the lineage mantra is really good because it's backed by the lineage. If you have the full faith and trust, then yes. You know, somehow in my experience, I knew the presence had gotten me out on the internet and yo sao so hum saha so hum asmi. That was my mantra until the presence gave me the mantra that it said, this is now the mantra. There was just a knowing, a conviction that the presence working had given this, that the presence working had somehow allowed these Mahavekyas to come into my existence, had somehow allowed these Abhangas. And when I read and it said, again, selfless self speaking, read these Abhangas when you're in any trouble, read them often. Okay, I've been given a command by Master. Read these Abhangas. Okay, every night before I went to sleep, I read these 12 Abhangas. Even when I traveled to India on the plane, I made sure I read these 12 Abhangas. Because...
The Tukaram Abhangas?
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, even though Ramakant Maharaj had not said to do that, presence had brought this into my experience, and in my experience gave a command, do these Abhangas. Listen to these bhajans. At first, the bhajans were just like, oh my God, I don't understand what they're saying, and the symbols, oh my God, can we have any more symbols, you know? Like the cowbell on Saturday Night Live. And I was just like, man. But then it was a command from presence. Selfless Self said, do this. While you're reading Selfless Self on the train, be listening to the Kakadarate. When you're reading Selfless Self on the train in the evening, be listening to the evening bhajans. And no one said it. It was just manifesting in the experience. And that's where that devotion is. Like Maharaj says, you take one step, he takes another. Well, I knew that this was being laid out. This is the path. The breadcrumbs leading to the selfless self in form. Are you, and that was another thing too. Even in a dream I had about going to Muji, as this presence was seemingly, I thought, I had a dream one night, and in that dream it said, are you really ready to meet me, John? And then it was like, okay, I'm going to India. I'm going to be with Maharaj, because that same voice that came, and Maharaj talks about this. These are miraculous experiences, and they have nothing to do with reality, other than Maharaj spoke in the dream. Are you really ready to meet me, John? That presence, through the form of words in a dream. Are you really ready to meet me, John? That led to Ramakant Maharaj, the presence in form. See, like they say, you can't be intellectual about it because it doesn't make sense. And if I talk to a psychiatrist about hearing the voice and thinking that this was there and that was right there and all that, they might think I'm completely batshit insane, to be honest. But it was the manifestation that was occurring spontaneously. And it just was just jumping in the river and flowing down the stream. And the cool thing was, even when I had that, and I read Nisargadatta Maharaj, he said, the Inchigiri Nath Sampradaya is like a river. It will carry you into it. It's not you're doing anything. It's going to carry you into it.
Wow. So the Das Bodh, I opened it a couple times and I read 2 chapters and I thought, there's no way this is going to happen. I mean, you guys read that, and I mean, they were describing the kind of person that I'm not.
Well, again, these are the concepts that you're believing about yourself, and they're removing those by describing. If you're identifying with these concepts, then you're holding on to these concepts and your beliefs about yourself, and they need to be removed. The truth is you're formless, attributeless, and concept-free. So all these concepts that you're identifying with are basically the identity and the concepts that just have to be removed. And Das Boot is beautiful because at the end of every one, it says, okay, now that we've dealt with this, throw that all away. Now in the next chapter, pay extra attention because there's additional concepts we'll be removing from you. And the entire book is just basically like if you had a big stone and it's chipping, 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 chipping. There was always a statue inside the stone and it's just chipping away. And the book is just chip, 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 until the formless you, the attributeless you is exposed.
Wow, I like that.
But Keith says, keep the faith. You always have faith in something, even if it's a false belief. We are always open anyway to some degree, however closed. No, now cannot stop or die.
Yeah, just have complete faith in your master, complete faith in your selfless self. And like Maharaj says, not master in body form. You know, we have the pictures of the masters and these kind of things because that's where the selfless self-devotion comes in. I know when I bow to that picture of Sri Ramakant Maharaj that is the presence. That is my selfless self in form as it appears in form. And the same with the other masters is bowing to each master, and there's a recognition in the projection. And all of that is the selfless self. Attributeless, formless, invisible, unidentified, anonymous identity that you are. Accept your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no master. Nothing is there. And master is not in body form. Master is using that instrument to speak to your own selfless self because that's the only way you can do it. You need a voice box to speak. I think Siddharmeshwar Maharaj talked about the fact that one lady had dropped a pearl or something in the water, and she told this guy, please go and get my pearl, but I want you to tell me the moment you got it. Well, you can't do that because you have to have the air of the voice box to speak. So it's the same. The formlessness can't speak without form. And the only reason they're speaking is to get the conviction of your selfless self, to invite the attention of the invisible listener and have the conviction. Just like you're told you're a man, you're told you're Brahman, it's automatic. It's conviction. The next moment when you're responding as Brahman. The formless, attributeless self. That nothing can touch. That nothing can cut. It can't be burned, can't be separated, can't die, never born. That you are.
Yeah. I think that's enough for tonight, John.
Okay, good, good, good. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I hope you guys have better weather on the East Coast.
Indeed.
You can keep focused.
Okay.
The wind has stopped.
Okay. Thank you.
All
Good night,
right.
everybody.
Thanks, John.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.